Hi, this is Patrick with Trusty Huckster Mercantile, back for the first video of 2020, which will be a haul video from my vacation, which I took the last 2 weeks of December. Because I was on vacation the last 2 weeks of December and prepping for that, plus all those pesky little holiday things that were happening up around the same time, I took a couple weeks off of doing any videos. So I am back, and I will hopefully start getting back into the schedule I was starting to set up toward the end of the year. But for now, let me do what'll probably be a pretty quick haul video, highlighting just what I picked up while I was thrifting while I was on vacation. So I traveled with my daughter to Vienna, Austria. If you followed me on Facebook, I did post a couple things while I was there. I tried to do a little bit more thrifting than I was successful at. I don't know if that just made sense. What was happening was, because it was the holidays, several of the stores that, even though I looked their Facebook pages, I looked on their websites, they did not say they were closed. They were actually closed throughout the 2 weeks that we were there. Most of them were reopening effectively today, Monday, January 6th. So that didn't mean much for me, because I was there from Christmas Day until January 4th. So a couple of the places that I had heard reviews on, had seen reviews on, found through some searches, or got recommended by some of you, unfortunately I was not able to visit. However, I was able to visit their flea market. So they have a flea market which occurs on Saturdays as part of the Nash Market. The Nash Markt is primarily an eating area with a bunch of little kiosk stores, and some of them have little places to eat indoors. It's really more of an outdoor eating. Trust me, it was not the time of year to do that. It was extremely cold while we were there. It was December, but they have this little, actually not all that little, this flea market that is built at the far end of the Nash Market in what's normally the parking lot. And when we first went, the way my daughter and I traveled to the flea market, we traveled through the Nash Markt. And then once you get through all the little established stores and stuff, you suddenly get into the flea market, which is fine. But what we saw at that section was sweatpants and hats and some homemade hats, but mostly it was just store-bought stuff. So I was kind of disappointed. But as we kept going through it, as we got farther and farther away from the actual Nash Markt, we found what was the true flea market. So if you ever go, don't give up when you start seeing basically junk. As you keep going, you do get into full-fledged antiques. And so I picked up 4 things while we were there. 2 of them I will actually be reselling, so I was super excited to find something to be able to resell. But 2 of them I'm actually going to keep for myself. So starting out, I visited a booth. Rene Mueller is a gentleman's name, who had an entire table dedicated to Lille and Porcelain. I had never heard of Lille and Porcelain, Lilien. It was the epitome of vintage. If anyone followed me on my Instagram, you would see that one of the museums that I visited highlighted the 1950s Vienna kitchen, which I didn't even know existed. This porcelain was basically built to go into that kitchen. It had the pastel colors of the 50s. It had the atomic shapes. It was absolutely gorgeous. And he had premium pieces at premium prices. My favorite was a little set of 6 coffee cups and saucers with its original stand, and he was asking 150 euros for it. I'm sure it was worth every penny of it, but that wasn't something I was going to do on a splurge. But it stuck with me. And as I went through the rest of the flea market, I found they had a few vendors that just had box lots where everything was a euro or €2 or €3. And one of the items I found, lo and behold, was a Lille and Porcelain pitcher. I've been trying to do as much research as I can on Lille and Porcelain, because if you watch enough of the videos, or if you just know me, I tend to get obsessed when I find something I really like. I want to know everything there is about it, and I want to find it any place I can. This has been a struggle. I did a little bit of it while I was there. I did find one piece later in my trip, which I regret not picking up. But it was still new enough to me. Lille and Porcelain as a company still exists. So that has me a little bit concerned. Doing a little bit of research, the logo that they use now is a little bit different. This one is the original older logo. Let's see if I can get that to... Come on. Should be able to focus. It's the only thing on the screen. Come on. That logo is one of the older... Let's just put it this way. That is not the current logo. I'm desperately trying to find more information on Lille and Porcelain. Amazon and Abe Books have almost nothing available, and what Abe Books has is ridiculously expensive. There are some on Amazon.de. I've actually contacted Rene Mueller. I'm not 100% sure he speaks English because my daughter was translating while we were there speaking German to see if there are any books he recommends, because Amazon.de has a handful of books, but they're pricey, not as much as Abe Books, but I don't want to get the wrong ones. And what I want to find out is, in general, what the differences are. Is the logos look like this, but you can see mine has this little dot at the bottom and then the letter G off to the side. Some of them, the letters are right underneath the logo itself. So I'm sure that there's some differentiation, that at some point they did the dot, at some point they did the original letters. Each letter probably represents a different year. I'm thinking somewhat like the feathers for Rookwood, like somehow they moved their way up. I just don't know where they start. The company itself started in the 50s, and like I said, their current logo is a little bit different. The little fleur-de-lis symbol is a little bit lighter, more airy, more open. It's not as pronounced. It does look different. So I think this is vintage. I just don't know how vintage. But I picked it up for €2. So I felt, you know what, it was still something I'm going to try and resell. I've been trying to find the pattern. From what I can tell, Blumen, which is basically German for flowers, Blumen is the only thing I could find. Lillian didn't do a lot of floral, so there were two different floral patterns, and this was one of them was considered, I found, as Blumen. One was Alpine Blumen, which looked a little bit more folk art, like alpine folk art. So I've found a couple comps. This is not super valuable. I recognize that. But again, I love Austria. When my daughter and I were picking a place to go, she's studying in Germany right now. We were picking a place to go for our holidays. We picked Vienna because we've been there before. We both loved the city. We just wanted to do a deeper dive. And so when I found this as something that's made in Austria, I just wanted to know more about it. So it will be going up for sale. I don't know when. There are some comps already, but I want to learn more about these marks because I'm assuming the older the marks, some might be rarer than others. But most of the marks that I'm seeing, the picture itself is probably going to sell somewhere in the $15, $20 range. Sometimes I've seen it listed as a mulled wine set where this has little tumblers without handles. I don't know if that's a real thing or not. So I just need to do a little bit more research. But I'm really excited by this. As you can tell, I've been rambling about it for 5 minutes. But Lille and Porcelain, it's my newest obsession, so I'm looking for it. Like I said, it's not particularly valuable. It is rare because we're in the United States. And I'm finding some are listed on Etsy and eBay for some pretty hefty price tags, but it's not really for the sold comps. It doesn't really sell for that much. So anyway, that will eventually be going up. Another piece that I found at the flea market that will also be going up, it was actually at the same booth where I got the picture, was this little puzzle bowl. And I only know it's a puzzle bowl because it says that on the back. It is a Rosenthal from Rosenthal, Germany, and I'm not sure why this doesn't want to focus. Hopefully you can focus that. You can see that well enough. So it's Rosenthal, Germany, and it says right on there, Puzzle Schale, guess, pardon me, guess, Besten, Deschen, Desch. Okay, I have no idea what that says. It's got a period, so it's an abbreviation for something. But it does say Germany on it. And I have other pieces of Rosenthal. And actually, I do like Rosenthal in general. I mean, pretty much if every piece of Rosenthal I've ever found, I've really liked the way it's designed. This, I think, has a really pretty design to it. And in doing a little bit of research, the reason it's called a puzzle bowl is that they would come in a set. I can't remember if it was 5 or 6, but each one was a petal. So when you put them on the table, it kind of looked like flower petals. Each one had its own design. Again, I paid €2 for it. They do sell individually. They sell more, obviously, if you could have them as a set. But this is just a cute little. It's just a cute little bowl. It's a shallow dish, pin tray, whatever. Use it for food, condiment dish. It's probably going to sell for around $10, so not big money. But I thought it was cute. I really wanted to find things that I could resell, and I was successful. And digging through a box lot and finding something for €2 was kind of fun. The other items that we found are something I'm going to be keeping. I've come across some of these before. I can't remember if I've covered these in any of my haul videos, but I've developed a collection of these little coasters. And what I'm doing for these coasters, I'm focusing on German-oriented coasters. I was in Austria, whatever. They had one of the places, everything on the table was €2. But she had a stack of 6 different designs from this. This is Lindner Queps Bavaria. There were 6 that had this style in them, and then there were 3 others. My daughter and I were obviously together, as I mentioned, and we have been to Aachen before. So even though we were in Austria, the set of 6 were all German, and most of the towns that were listed were not towns that we had visited. So we picked this one up for €1. I already have a collection of probably about a dozen, so I'm just adding to that. I had a Christmas party right before we left, and I didn't have enough coasters to go around, so I needed to add. So this is just a fun little coaster that they're actually functional, not reselling it, not very valuable, but they're kind of interesting little conversation pieces, and that's why I wanted to get one that was someplace we'd been. Another piece that we picked up, once upon a time when I used to go to, long before I was reselling, since I've only been reselling for 3 months, I've always gone to flea markets, auctions, things like that, and my daughter would go along with me because we'd spend a lot of time together. And I decided that in order for her to have fun going to something like a flea market, she should have a goal of something on her own. And for a while, she was collecting political buttons. And then we somehow started this collection, and I do not know why, but we started a collection of salt cellars, salt dips, open salts, whatever you want to call them. And none of them were ever valuable. I don't think we ever paid more than like $5 for them. I have a lighted secretary with little curio shelves on it. They looked really nice sitting on there. So as I was looking for, maybe some bigger ticket items or something for the home, she could be on the lookout for her own thing. And, it was a red letter day if she was able to find something. That collection has grown a little bit over time. In some cases, I've found things even on my own. So it's kind of a joint collection. So as we were traveling together and we're going through the flea market, this caught our eye. So I have it backwards. So this is what I believe is a salt cellar. It has this little, if you can tell, there's these little tines at the top where there should be a spoon suspended. I've never had a salt cellar like that, where the spoon would be suspended. That seems to me to be more like a relish dish type thing. But hey, this is very cool. It's this lovely little salt cellar, and I think we ended up paying €8 for it. So we were super excited. And then I came home and did a little, and I knew at the time that this was loose, that this itself was not attached. But I wasn't overly concerned with it. I figured maybe at once time it had been attached and it just over time came undone, or maybe it's supposed to come out because then you can wash it. I didn't really think anything of it. Until I came home, back to the States, and started doing some research on some of the things that I picked up. And what I discovered is this piece by itself is actually showing up as an item. I think I found 2 or 3 comps of this ram head, goat, open salt, where this is standing all by itself. And it suddenly makes me wonder if this is a marriage. And that is entirely possible what this is. I do think it still kind of looks good together, and these little goats kind of, I think, fit nicely. Not perfectly, because you would think maybe the little crossbar would fit more into the arch of his legs if it was perfect, but it definitely looks good. So I'm going to keep them together, and I'm going to find a spoon that goes with it. But neither the bowl, the salt itself, nor the footed holder have any sort of markings on them. So if you envision, and I don't want to take it out because it is very nicely wedged in there, and I'm afraid if I get it out, I won't be able to get it back in. But if you look at it from just the rest of the piece, I could envision maybe a little glass rectangular dish sitting in there with the spoon that it might be a relish tray. So if you've seen anything like that, I did try and do some Googling of just the eBay searching just of the holder, and I didn't have any luck. I thought it may kind of looked like bamboo. You know, I tried footed. I tried all these different options. I couldn't find anything that replicated this piece. So if you have anything, I'm keeping it. It's not for sale. It's going to look great with my other salts, even if it is a marriage. So I was really happy to pick that up. Great that it was something that my daughter and I did at a flea market in Europe. Don't even know if it's European, but hey, it's a cool piece and it'll look good in my collection. So that was all the success that I had at the flea market. And then we tried, a couple other thrift stores. There's one I really wanted to go to and literally tried it 3 separate times. And the first 2 times they were closed without any signage or warning. But the third time we did get in and I got nothing. Interestingly enough, they had a couple extra coasters I considered buying, but again, they were locations we didn't have any relationship with, and she was asking €5 a piece. And I wanted to buy something, didn't happen. And then literally, so this was all on the same day. It was Friday, the last full day before we went back. I said, you know what? We've done so many museums. Oh, we did so many museums. And loved them, absolutely loved them. But it got to a point where we're like, you know what? Let's just kind of explore the city. It was cold, but we got on the metro or the S-Bahn, and traveled a lot more. And I did so much research, and I found all these great places I want to go to, and literally every single one of them was closed. The first was a resale shop. We did go to a resale shop earlier in the week. There, my daughter found some clothes. That's not really my thing. I'm certainly not going to try and get into reselling European clothes. But she found a couple cool pieces, and so I'd found another clothing shop that was closed. We found a show while we were watching TV in the hotel. It's called, I think in the States, it's called 4 Rooms, I think is what it's called. Well, they had a German version of it, and one of the women who was in the room, and let me back up, if you've never heard of 4 Rooms, the concept is somebody shows up that has something to sell, and they give a little bit of a summary of what they think it is and how much they want to be able to sell it for. They're told about how much it's worth. Then they go into 4 independent rooms that are managed by 4 resellers and or collectors. It depends on who's on the show. And they get an offer from each one. And if you want to accept the offer, you accept it, and then you don't get to hear anybody else's offer, or everyone else's offer is irrelevant. And if you don't accept it, then you go to the next room, you go to the next room, you go to the next room. So it's possible you could get no offers. It's possible you get the highest offer in room 1, but you don't take it. And then you go to room 2, and then you go to room 3, and by room 4, they give you less money, and you just take it because you want to sell it. So anyway, one of the women, I don't know why I went into that level of detail, but anyway, it's a kind of a cool show. And even though they were all speaking German, I had no idea what they were talking about. I loved watching it. And one of the women had a shop in Vienna. So I looked at her shop, and it didn't say anything on her Facebook or website that she'd be closed, and she was closed. And then we went to another resale shop. It was closed. By the end of the day, I was getting very frustrated because it was very cold. We traveled a lot, and there was a shop called Bananas Mobilier. And mobile, M-O-B-E-L, is furniture. I'm not sure what mobilier is, but bananas is just like the fruit, bananas. Turned out the guy spoke English. He had a super quirky collection. Some things were higher priced than I felt comfortable paying. Nothing was priced really for at reseller level, but I was successful in finding some things that I wanted, and I'm going to show you them now. So look, coasters. I don't know why I like these so much, but these coasters in particular, I got super excited when I saw them because I recognized them. They are Lufthansa. So they are German. And I had seen these, I don't remember where I saw these for the first time, but they sell or are listed fairly regularly around the $20 mark, $15 to $25, depending on whether shipping's included. And I just was never willing to pay that much for a coaster. You know, again, I'm using them. But when I saw them here, they were €10 each, so more than I would normally pay. But they're just, I'm sorry, they're just too cool. There's several designs that look like this, or well, of this, let's say this color style, that were all done in 1988. I can't remember if they were all the same artist or not, but they all have this very bold color pattern. And I just, this I think looks really nice. And then this set, there were, he had 3 of them. And we decided we were just going to get one. So this is the one that my daughter and I like the best. This one's actually from 1990. So they're all vintage. I think what they were is they were actually used in the business class section or maybe first class section of the airline. And I do have similar coasters or small dishes, excuse me, that I picked up from Lot Airlines. Those are actually for sale on my Etsy shop. So there is kind of a thing about airlines, you know, doing nice porcelain for their higher level customers. These happen to be Hutchenreuther. I'm so sorry. I don't speak German. You can see it at the top. So it is a porcelain manufacturer that dates back to 1814. So it's a well-established porcelain manufacturer out of Germany, doing it for a German airline. Not for resale, €10 each. Super happy to have them, and basically a good purchase because I've seen them and they were selling for much more than that if I were to buy them here in the States. I don't remember if I've ever covered this in any of my hauls because in many cases I don't talk about things that I keep for myself, but I have a tea canister collection which I started in preparation to eventually redo part of the kitchen. And primarily they're vintage ceramic. But when I saw this one, I had to have this for my collection. I do have one tin in my collection already. So this is, you know, going to help round that out. But it is he actually had 2 of them. The other one was in slightly better condition. But I took this one because this one was Austrian and the other one was actually the exact same canister, but it was marked from Germany. So this one is, pardon me, getting old sucks. Let me pull up my glasses again. So this is T-Konig. Anyway, this one's Salzburg. The other one was Dusseldorf, Germany. So even though this wasn't in quite as nice of condition, I think I can clean up this cover a little bit. It's not bad. I just got it because I was in Austria and I wanted to pick up something that was Austrian. So it wasn't Vienna, but at least it's from Salzburg. And I think this will look really nice in my collection. So again, not for resale. I think I paid €15 for it, which I thought was totally fair. I'd never seen one like it. It's got the German writing on the front, so it's very clearly, you know, something not from America. And I think it'll look good in my collection. The other piece, and this was last minute, literally, if you ever have a brick and mortar store and you've got people buying, use every moment you have while you've got your customers in front of you. My credit card, it wasn't my credit card's fault, but I was trying to use a credit card and we were his first or sale of the day, and the machine wasn't registering me, so he had to reboot it. So there was a little bit of downtime, which kept us at the counter while that reset itself. And hey, guess what's at the counter? Their jewelry. So admittedly, my 20-year-old daughter did not get super excited about anything she saw, but I decided to ask if he had any cufflinks. And I'm not a big cufflink user, but one of the things we did, my daughter and I did while we were in Vienna, was go to the Hofburg Sylvester Ball, which is at the Hofburg Palace. If you followed me on Instagram, you would see pictures from that as well. So I had just used one of the only pair of cufflinks I own to wear my tuxedo for that event. So I just wanted to see, what kind of cufflinks they had. And suddenly these showed up. And I was fascinated because I couldn't figure out how they worked. So they're, as a normal cufflink, they have the section that would go through the whole, all 4 holes of your shirt. But unlike a traditional cufflink, which would go through and then the decorative part would be sticking out at the back end so that one side of your sleeve was decorative and the back side was the functional, this one goes through, and then when you clasp it, this actually wraps around where the 4 pieces of fabric at the edge of the cuff meet. So it actually decorates the edge of the cuff. Don't ask me why I'm so fascinated by that, but I was. And total spur of the moment, I already had a 35 euro purchase trying to go through the credit card, and I popped these on for an extra 20. So for his first sale of the day, just by making us wait and look at a tray of jewelry that we wouldn't have looked at had we not been standing there, he made an extra $20, €20 sale. And I have a very cool pair of cufflinks that I don't know when I will wear, but when I do, I will remember they came from Bananas Mobilier in Vienna, Austria. The last thing I have to cover is also totally something for my own collection, but it's so cool, I have to show you. I got a piece of bread. No, I didn't really get a piece of bread. I got a bread box. You can see it is a porcelain box that looks exactly like the rolls we got for breakfast every morning at the hotel. It was more expensive than I should have paid, or, in hindsight wanted to pay, but it was just too cool. And it's going to sit actually among the salt cellars in my little cabinet. Again, it was something that my daughter and we went to the Augarten porcelain manufacturing, the factory. Highly recommend things like that when you're doing tours, if you have the opportunity to do something a little bit off the beaten path. They have a museum. The museum wasn't very good. No offense, but it wasn't. But we went because we wanted to we did the museum, but we were also there for the tour of the factory. And they actually walk you through all of the production steps of how their porcelain is made. Now, Augarten porcelain originally dates back to like the 1700s. It closed in the mid-19th century, but then reopened again in 1923. And when they reopened, if you ever see this logo, it's like the little beehive logo with a crown on it. That's a variation of that is what they've always used. This is very, very high-end, very expensive porcelain. So this is, you're extremely wealthy, and this is what you're registering for your wedding china. And even then, no one's going to be able to afford to get it for you. So this little box ended up being 145 euro. So that breaks down to roughly 160, 170 bucks for a tiny little box. But the detail of it and how it's painted, and then on the back, you'll see it's got the numbers and everything at the bottom. The last set of numbers is actually the artist. So that when you start collecting it, if you start collecting it, because Augarten did start again in 1923, you can actually collect based on the artist that painted the materials. There are 3 styles of artists. We learned this on the tour. You either become a floral and decorative scene artist, you become an edge painter, which basically would be the one that actually hand paints the gold trim on the edge of all the plates. And then also does all the lettering. And then they do also make figurines. And so that becomes a 3rd style of painter. So I'm assuming this is the decorative painter, the one that does the florals. But, most of it's the molding. But the coloring of this, it couldn't look more like a roll than a roll. We bought this, then we got breakfast the next morning, set them side by side. And the real roll sat out for a couple of days. It was about as hard as a porcelain box. But that is keeping in my permanent collection. So This video ran longer than I'd anticipated because I didn't have much to show, but I had a little bit of a story to talk about each one of them. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you sat through. And if you're still watching, appreciate if you do a thumbs up, like this video, maybe comment on it. Tell me if anything that you like or where some of your favorite places are to source for vintage if you're traveling internationally. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and share this with your friends. Again, I'll be doing a couple more videos, hopefully within the next couple of days, if not tonight, and try and get back onto a schedule to keep up to date with my regular hauls, and then also maybe some what's sold videos, and just again get back into a schedule and try and build my channel up, and we'll do what the people are asking for. So again, make sure you comment anything if you'd like to see anything more in videos. I really appreciate it. Again, this is Patrick with Trusty Huckster Mercantile. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook at TH Mercantile, and you've already found me on YouTube. So appreciate your time, and I will talk to you again soon. Thank you very much. Goodbye.